Hi everybody, welcome to week 2. I want to start off by thanking you for your work, especially at the quick pace that we go in this class. I think the first week went really smoothly, and that's a credit to you and your attention to detail and your effort, so thank you. Thanks also for the posts that you used that showed different angles of vision last week. I think that AB Chapter 4 is a good resource for this course. It gives a nice overview, and it's especially helpful for the papers that come after the literacy narrative, the synthesis, infographic, and commentary, and the researched paper. You already read previously about style, and I think that this chapter's advice to write in an academic but conversational tone is a really helpful piece of advice. And then, of course, those concepts of logos, pathos, and ethos are valuable to understand both as a reader and as a writer. And then I think the final point I want to just highlight from the end of that chapter for this week's literacy narrative and also for your future essays is the quote, "The supporting details for a paper should come from as low on the ladder of abstraction as your context allowed." That kind of specificity makes really strong writing, so keep that in mind as you're working this week. So the big thing this week is the literacy narrative. Remember that you want to read those directions very carefully, keep returning to the assignment description, and that there are a couple of models under files on Canvas. As you're working on that draft, I'd like you to remember to use the advice about showing rather than telling and incorporating your own voice. Remember back to the Ansel Dua and the Douglas readings where those narratives gave you a strong sense of who those authors were and why reading or writing or speaking were important to them. It's also not too early to start thinking about that final assignment, your research paper, which is the biggest assignment of the course. I encourage you to take a look at that assignment this week and just start thinking a little bit about a topic that you might want to do, a conversation that you might want to enter, as the AB book said last week. You tweeted about wallowing in complexity last week, and that's something you'll definitely need to do to be successful at this assignment, to create an interesting and surprising thesis. And something that you posted the first week was something that you're interested in debating, and that might be something that you're interested in doing for the researched paper. Or it might be a problem in your field, or lots of other possibilities there, but just start thinking about it. Make sure that whenever you log into Canvas that you are reading the announcement every morning just to get the overview, or whenever you get on. It might not be in the morning for you. Today you're reading about peer review. The Writing Commons Opens text has some really helpful advice about looking at both the global and the local when you do peer review. It's most helpful when you're reviewing for another person to look for patterns, the larger things about the content, how an introduction works or doesn't, is the writer doing that showing rather than telling, and then giving an overall final summary content. As that Writing Commons open text says, it's not helpful to do the nitpicky, very local comments at this point. For the discussion post for Monday, you're going to write about those readings about peer review, and the responses have to be your partners for the literacy narrative peer review, just to make sure that you're interacting with them ahead of time. Those partners are posted in a Word document on the discussion post directions. You'll see that you're in, for the most part, groups of 3, but I do have 2 groups of 4. Those folks just have to comment on the ones that I listed at the bottom. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. And I wanted to end talking about peer review by sharing with you some advice that a professor gave me. Sometimes it can feel difficult to put your writing out there for peer review, particularly in a class like this where we're not meeting face-to-face, and particularly for this first assignment, which is sort of a personal one. So he told us that we want to distance ourselves from the writing a little bit, even if it does feel like it's something that's valuable to us and important to us. That remember that you're kind of putting it out there for others to help and shape what it will become, and that it's not that they're critiquing you, it's they're giving you advice about this piece that we've put out for discussion. So try not to take it as an attack on your person or on your experiences. And I would say for the most part, the 99% of people doing peer review in E110 and the 8 times I've taught this class are very generous and supportive. So try not to be too worried about that. So let's go ahead and review the rest of the week. By the end of Monday, you'll be able to understand the components of effective peer review. Then you'll be writing the rough draft of the literacy narrative and then providing feedback to 2 classmates on their rough drafts. As soon as those rough drafts are submitted, it will be released to you as a peer reviewer, so there's nowhere that you need to go looking for it. It should come up in your Canvas dashboard. You'll then integrate the feedback from me and from your peers to revise your essay and produce a final draft. And then we're going to talk a little bit about common writing errors and understand the concept and the limitations of what's called standard English, but still mastering the correction of some of those common errors. You're going to write a short poem this week, and then you'll conclude the week by thinking about some of the moves that are involved in writing analysis and synthesis essays in preparation for essay number 2, and then providing feedback on E110. So thanks again for all of your work and for listening to this long video, and have a great week.